All right, News Nation has this report. The next time you order a Frosty, there's a chance you'll be talking to a robot. After months of testing, Wendy's is expanding its artificial intelligence partnership with Google to streamline the drive-thru experience at its restaurants. Starting in 2024, franchisees will get a chance to test the company's fresh AI chatbot, according to the chain, which announced on Monday. Right now, the tech is only available at 4 company-operated restaurants in Columbus, Ohio. Wendy started testing the AI chatbot back in May. The company said service times at an AI pilot location were 22 seconds faster than the local market average. In terms of accuracy, Fresh AI has successfully handled 86% of orders without an intervention from staff. That number is expected to improve as the AI model continues to iterate, according to Wendy's. Now, this article's from a couple of months ago. They have now started actually rolling these out across the country. And here's what the drive-thru chatbot experience is like. Watch.
Welcome to Wendy's. What would you like?
Can I have a chocolate Frosty?
Which size for the chocolate Frosty?
Medium.
Can I get you anything else today?
No, thank you.
Great. Please pull up to the next window.
Okay, now, first of all, if you really want this to feel real, then you need your AI chatbot to be a lot less friendly, especially at a place like Wendy's. If Chick-fil-A goes to the AI chatbot, then that works, because feels pretty lifelike for Chick-fil-A. But at any other place like Wendy's or Burger King or McDonald's, if you want it to feel real, you want us to feel like we're really talking to a person, then you need the chatbot to be a lot more surly and a lot less interested in you. So the chatbot needs to come on like, yeah, what do you want? Number one, okay, pull around. No, please, no, thank you, no, nothing. Now, I'm going to take an unpopular position, as I tend to do sometimes. And this is unpopular anyway with conservatives who tend to worship the free market with a kind of religious conviction. And I believe in the free market too. I'm a big proponent of economic freedom. I'm such a big proponent, actually, that I think that the income tax should be abolished. And not only that, but I think a constitutional amendment should be passed prohibiting the government from taxing income. So I am farther to the right on economic freedom than most people, including most conservatives. But why do I favor economic freedom? Well, it's for the same reason that I favor any kind of freedom, because I think that it leads to human flourishing. If it interfered with human flourishing or prevented human flourishing, then it would be bad, and I would oppose it. Because it's not the freedom or the right in and of itself that's good. It's what it leads to. And anything that on balance makes people's lives worse, and more importantly, makes people worse, like makes people into worse people. Anything that does that, on balance, is bad. And this is what I'm saying so far should not be controversial, right? This is like basic, like if you don't believe this, then what's the point? If we're not fighting for human flourishing and for people to have better lives and to be better people, then what the hell are we even fighting? Who cares about anything? If that's not the thing that matters most to us, then what does matter? Like what could rank above that? So anything that prevents human flourishing is bad, not something you want in society. And I think on balance, freedom makes people's lives better. So I'm in favor of it. But I'm not in favor of complete freedom. Nobody is. Like, I don't think that you should have absolute freedom. I don't think you should have the freedom to do whatever you want. There are limits. Everyone agrees that there are limits. We just disagree about where the limits should be. And one of the reasons we disagree about where the limits should be is because many people don't have a clear idea, again, of like what's the point of allowing people to be free? What is that supposed to accomplish exactly? And if you understand what it's supposed to accomplish, then you clearly start to see where the limits are. The limits are only confusing if you have no underlying notion of what the purpose of life even is. So like what's the project here? What are we even doing? Why do we exist? If you have no notion of that, or if you haven't thought about it, then a question like, well, where do you draw the line on freedoms becomes very, very confusing. It's because very vague. But if you have a clear idea, then it's much, those lines are delineated more clearly. So for me, the limits are kind of clear. With freedom, when you push past the point of human flourishing, when it gets to the point where it now makes people suffer, or it makes their lives worse, it makes them worse, it harms the body and the soul, but the soul more importantly, then you have reached the limit. That's where freedom should end. It should not go beyond that point, which is why I think, for example, that you shouldn't have the freedom to kill your baby, or gender transition your child, or bring a kid to a drag show. All of that, along with many other things, I think you shouldn't have the freedom to do. But the reason I take that view on those topics is because that stuff is pretty well past the line, right? That is the kind of freedom. It is a kind of freedom. It's a freedom for people to do, but it's a freedom that harms people and harms society and harms the soul and makes everything worse for everybody. And so it's bad. Okay, so that's my brief dissertation on freedom. How does that relate to AI chatbots in the drive-thru line? Well, if this is as far as it goes, the drive-thru, if this is the limit, if AI is going to take over drive-thrus and that's it, then I'd probably be fine with it. But we know that it doesn't end here. It begins here, which is why I feel quite strongly that there should be laws in place heavily regulating the use of AI by businesses and outright banning it in some cases. I know, again, if you're on the right, and especially if you're, if you're kind of the Fox News conservative type, and you hear the word regulation, you think, well, this is blasphemy. How could you possibly suggest that the regulation should be passed? Obviously, we have a lot of regulations that are bad. We have too many regulations. But clearly there should be some regulations. Like, obviously, we're not so stupid that we take the position that nothing should be regulated ever. Clearly, there is a place for some form of regulation in some context. I hope we could all agree with that. And I think this is one area where it should be. And the reason I say that is that if nothing is done, if no laws are passed, then AI is going to replace easily 80 to 90% of all the jobs on the planet. Like, that will happen. It will happen rapidly within the next 20 years, okay? 80 to 90%. And I think that's probably a conservative estimate. And now, it's speculation. You could say, well, how do I know that? I don't know that, but it seems very likely to me. And all you have to do is imagine, with current technology, how many jobs could be replaced right now with current technology? Many. But then from there, you just have to, okay, well, how many jobs conceivably could be replaced with just a little bit of more advancement in our technology? Well, many more. Spring is here, which means spring cleaning, warmer weather, and the flowers and leaves start to bloom. With all the changing things happening outside right now, there's no better time than right now to start shopping for life insurance with Policy Genius as part of your financial planning for the year. Getting life insurance today means that you'll have peace of mind so that if something were to happen to you, your family can cover expenses while getting back on their feet. Luckily, Policy Genius helps you compare your options from top companies, and their team of licensed experts is on hand to help talk you through it. Policy Genius has licensed, award-winning agents and technology that makes it easy to compare life insurance quotes from America's top insurers in just a few clicks to find your lowest price. Even if you already have a life insurance policy through work, it may not offer enough protection for your family, and it may not follow you if you leave your job. With Policy Genius, you can find life insurance policies that start at just $292 per year for $1 million of coverage. Some options offer same-day approval and avoid unnecessary medical exams as well. Policy Genius works for you, not the insurance companies. That means they don't have the incentive to recommend one insurer over another. Save time and money and provide your family with a financial safety net using Policy Genius. Head to policygenius.com/Walsh to get your free life insurance quotes and see how much you could save. That's policygenius.com/Walsh. One big example is self-driving cars, AI that drives cars. Now, we already have a little bit of that. That technology is in its infancy. But I think we all understand that if nothing prevents it from happening, that certainly within 20 years, probably sooner than that, you're going to have self-driving cars all over the road, and it'll be a very common. It'll be most cars that'll be a standard. Eventually, it'll be probably mandated, and then there's a whole bunch of jobs that go out the window just with that alone, just that piece. Truck drivers, any kind of Uber, taxi driver, anything in that industry, all that stuff. Delivery drivers out the window. That's thousands and thousands of middle-class jobs just from that piece gone. And I think that's bad. I think that's very, very bad. I think that will lead to suffering on a massive planetary scale, actually. And I think that we should prevent that kind of suffering. I think that massive planet-wide suffering is bad. And if we can prevent it, we should. We can't prevent all of it. But if it can be prevented, then it should be. And if we see ourselves right now actively creating the circumstances for future suffering, we should probably stop and say, well, maybe we should stop doing this. Like we are right now choosing to do things that's going to harm a lot of people. And we can stop. Let's not do that. So now you might argue, as many people have, that people have always predicted doom, whenever some new technological advance comes along. And they've always been wrong, supposedly, right? They worried that cars would take jobs away from horse and buggy manufacturers, right? And so on. But this is different, okay? This is a different kind of thing. It just is. Any analogy that you try to draw will fail, because all of that is different. Now, I'm all about historical analogies, but not everything has an analogy. There are unprecedented things that happen in history sometimes, and this kind of technology is unprecedented. There's nothing. Go back 100 years ago. What was their version of AI? It didn't exist. They didn't have a version of it. It just was not a thing that existed. It didn't. So, with the horse and buggy example, that was a massive technological shift, totally changed human society. But people went from driving horse and buggies to driving cars. The thing that they used, the tool they used, changed. And so, you just had to learn how to use the new tool, and that's a big adjustment. But, that's it. That's all that happened. People went from writing one way to writing another way with the invention of the printing press. And any other example you can think of, but this is a different sort of thing. It just is. Other technology has been artificial, man-made, right? But this technology is artificially intelligent. We are inventing intelligence, which is simply different from inventing a new tool for intelligent people to use. We invented cars, right? But they didn't drive themselves, at least not at first. Now that will happen. But, at first and up till now, they didn't drive themselves. So we invented cars, and you're not doing horse and buggy anymore, but now just use a car, because the car is not going to drive itself. We still need people to do that. So it's the self-operation, it's the intelligence that sets this apart. And the problem is that it takes away whole industries. It takes away whole categories of jobs and doesn't replace them with anything. It gives people less to do, a lot less to do, fewer tasks to perform, rather than giving us new things to do and new tasks to perform. It makes people themselves obsolete and irrelevant. It creates a few jobs, comparatively few. They're the people that create and maintain the AI and that sort of thing. But it is not a one-for-one trade at all. I mean, in reality, we will just be erasing entire industries from the face of the earth. Where does that lead? Well, the optimist, the AI advocate, will say that it will freeze people up. I was talking about this on Twitter today, and this is the response I got from a lot of people, that it frees people up to seek more fulfilling, worthwhile, creative pursuits. Why waste your time running drive-through lines? Now the would-be drive-through worker can become a poet or a philosopher, or go be a painter, Or they could take up a trade, one of the few that hasn't been consumed by the AI blob. They can take up one of the trades. That's the positive spin here. It's also completely delusional. You have to have some understanding of human nature in order to participate in a conversation like this. And if you just don't understand how people work, then your opinion will not be very useful. And that is not how people work. That's not how it has worked so far. What will happen instead is that, for one thing, the welfare rolls will explode even more than they already have. It's going to put millions more on the government dole. All those immigrants coming here to run our drive-thrus, guess what they're doing? They're not going home, okay? They're going on welfare. Even more of them. So that's what will happen. And while we become a welfare state, even more of a welfare state than we already are, people will be sitting around, staring at screens, amusing themselves idly and pointlessly, with no sense of meaning or purpose. That has been the trend, okay? All you got to do is look at, even without AI, all these other technological advancements, although they haven't made human beings obsolete yet, like AI will, they have freed up a lot of time for us, right? So we do have a lot more free time. We have a lot more free time now than people did 100 years ago or 200 years ago. Okay, well, how are we using that free time? You tell me. Is there any evidence that on the whole, human beings will take all that free time where they don't need to do anything and use it to pursue worthwhile pursuits? No. What do? We spend 10 hours a day staring at screens. That's what we do. That's what people do. That's just the reality. And that's what will happen. It has already been happening. And it will continue to happen. And so you take away all these jobs. That is what, now, you could say all you want. Well, running a drive-thru is a soul-crushing work. Oh, really? So just sitting at home and like looking at your phone and doing this for 15 hours a day, this is better? This is better. This is more enriching to the soul. Just this move all day. That's a heck of a lot more enriching, isn't it? At least when you're working a job, like you're doing something, you're interacting with people, you're performing some sort of task, you're providing a service or a good to people. You have like a reason to get up in the morning and take a shower, hopefully, and get changed. People need work. People need something to do. They need a purpose. They need like a task. They need to wake up in the morning and feel like I've got something to do. I have a reason to get out of bed. They need that. People need that. You cannot take that away from people. You can't take it away from millions of people all at once and expect anything but total catastrophe to come as a result of that. And so that's what's going to happen. Don't say I didn't warn you, but, I guess we'll check back in 20 years and I can do the I told you so game. Hey, YouTube, thanks for listening to the show. If you'd like access to my full show with no ads, you should go to dailywire.com and use promo code Walsh to get 2 months free on all annual plans. See you there.